This lesson is a continuation of the mission statement and its purpose and its powerful embedment into the dental office. It's so important to understand why do we have a mission statement and why did we choose the mission statement that we have. The mission statement we have, as you'll remember, is umbrellaed under the term wellness. You'll remember the mission statement talks about we're here basically to care for you, to keep you well for a lifetime and help reduce your dentistry through education, to eliminate your dentistry for a lifetime. And that comes from the word doctor. The word doctor comes from the Latin word docere, which means to teach or to know or to teach one to know. How come we have that mission statement? So to understand this and the scope of it, I'm going to cover a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to cover a subject called logic, which most people in college don't take. But logic is critical as to how and why this mission statement came about. Once we talk about why it came about, then we're going to talk about how to embed the mission statement throughout the entire practice, which is a critical element in terms of retention of your patients and your consumers. Remember, we're talking about retention here. If we can retain consumers in this office, the office will organically grow. Not maybe. It will go away from your standard office across the country that has 3 or 4 days of hygiene for 7, 8, 9 years in a row without ever adding one day. How is that? That's damn near impossible. So let's take a look at how come and how can we retain the consumer to add more hygiene days, more hygiene revenue, and at the end of the day, how do we remove the handcuffs from this practitioner? Because if you have hygiene days, your income has a limitless ceiling. In fact, it doesn't have a ceiling. So that being said, let's go into the subject as to why and how we came about with this mission statement. So foremost, let's cover the subject of logic. Now, the word logic itself is umbrellaed under the term reason. If people knew how to reason, the ability to have arguments or no arguments or understanding is elevated. So let's take a look at how people think, because you're marketing your practice, and at the same time, we're putting a mission statement in that elevates the retention of your consumer. So on a logic scale or a reason scale, if you take a look at the scale I'm going to throw up on the screen here, this scale is, let's say, in the middle is 0, and it can go up and up and up almost infinitely. But on this scale, let's just arbitrarily say that it goes to 10. So from 0 to 10, if you look at this scale, let's ask you a couple of questions. The question I'm going to ask you, almost every person will answer exactly the same. If you look at this scale, anything can go on it, right or wrong, beauty or ugly. If I said something is ugly, it could be at 0. If it's beautiful, it could be at 10. Something that's very, very right could be at 10 or above 10. Something that's very wrong could be at 0 or below 0. So let's take an example of this so we really understand this scale. If somebody is driving to work and they see a young man crossing somebody across the street and they're in a wheelchair, and he's stopping the traffic, you go, wow, that's pretty benevolent. That's good. Let's put that at a 5 or a 6 on this scale. Somebody else comes along and they're pretty well off and they're a philanthropist and they want to donate. So they find a area that they are interested in, and let's say it happens to be education in South Africa. And so what they do is they donate $4 to $5 million to open up schools, supply books and materials and what have you for the students to rid the area of crime in the crime-ridden areas. And of course, over a period of 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, all of a sudden you have more literate people and the crime rate decreases. That's above somebody crossing the street. Instead of a 5, that might be an 8 or a 9. That's pretty benevolent. So let's go to the other end of the scale. Let's take it and let's say it goes from 0 to minus 10. So you have minus 10 to plus 10. So let's take the subject of right and wrong. Let's say somebody goes to work and they take a pen from the office and they put it in their purse and they take it home. Well, that's sort of a negative. Not a big deal, but if you have ever bought big pens for your office, you'll know that you buy 20 of them. They're all gone in 3 days and you can never find the damn things, right? So anyways, the person finds the pen at home and they go, oh, well, I don't make that much money anyway, and it's only a pen, so I'll keep it. But that's actually a negative, a very minor comparison to stealing. But it's not really stealing, but it's sort of stealing. Let's say it's a -1. Somebody else comes late to work the next day, and they're working in a dental office, and they're running 30 minutes behind. So they call a fellow staff member, and they ask the fellow staff member, hey, could you clock me in? I'm running 30 minutes late. And so the other person says, sure, and they clock him in. Well, that's like a -4 or 5, because that's actually stealing. It's stealing 30 minutes of time. The person is late. Somebody else clocks him in. So there's 2 people involved in that negativity. So that's negative. So by the way, that can get worse and worse and worse. Somebody else steals a car in society. Well, that's a felony. That's way down there. By the way, how bad can it get? Somebody can murder somebody. Somebody in a world war could kill 6 million Jews. Well, that's way, way down there. Now, going up to good, we already talked about. So let's take a look and go back to the subject of dentistry. Why am I talking about this scale? Anything could go on this scale, good or bad, which I gave an example of, beauty, ugly, many things can go on it. But let's talk about life importances. What's important in life? And let's put it on the scale. So at the very top of the scale, we're going to go from 0 to 10. And I'm going to ask you a question, because everyone in the globe, literally in society and every culture, the thing that's at number 10 is always 2 things. And the 2 things that are up there every time is, number 1, their family, and right along with it and parallel to it is their job. And the job is there to support the family. So that's right at the very top of the scale. If they don't have that, then all the things below that can't hardly exist. So that's numero uno for almost everybody. So, okay, let's say that you want to go out to dinner with some friends and go to a movie. Well, that's pretty cool. And from 0 to 10, that's like a 7 or an 8. Or you go to a nice party with some friends, or let's say you go on a cruise with your family, or you go to Hawaii with your family and you have a nice vacation. Well, that's up there. That's pretty up there. That's pleasure moments. It's fun. You get to converse with your family members, and that's way up there. Okay, let's say you get your hair done and you get it streaked and you really like it. Well, that's pretty up there too. That's like a 6 or a 7. You get your nails done. Well, that's a 6, 7, or an 8. That's pretty cool. You have nice looking nails. You get a massage. That's pretty up there. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Now let's go into the mind of the consumer and let's ask this question. Now you're going to go to a dentist. So you tell me on a scale of 0 to 10 where that ends up. Because it's not at 10, it's not at 9, it's not at 8, it's not at 7, 6, 5, or 4. The concept of going to a dentist is not a pleasure moment. It's not like going to Disneyland. It's not like going out to the movies, getting a massage, getting your hair done, your nails done, or anything like that. Going to the dentist has certain mental images that the consumer has. Let's talk about what are they. Where is it on this scale? It's probably somewhere around a 1 or a 2. It's not pleasurable. So when people think of going to a dentist, they think, oh my gosh, it's painful. They think about, I have to get injections if I have something wrong. It's going to be costly for me. Is the doctor going to tell me more of what I need than I actually do? Am I going to get ripped off? Do I need to get a second opinion? These, by the way, that I'm mentioning are consumer surveys. They aren't my thoughts. This is in the mind of your patients in your geographic area where they come to your office. So they mandate going to a dentist when they have pain. When they have pain, they don't want to get out of pain. So that overrides the negativity. So they're going to call for an emergency visit. Some people go to get their teeth cleaned to maintain so they don't have pain in the future. But nevertheless, look where dentistry falls on this scale. It's somewhere between a 1 or a 2 in most people's mind. Those are consumer surveys. They're out on your ADA website. You can find them. So what does the mission statement have to do with this scale of importance? And I can tell you that it has everything to do with it. So we're going to take up a subject here on this subject of logic, and we're going to, the subject in marketing and public relations is called public relations and positioning. How do you position your office so you position against what's in the mind of your consumer? Your consumer has pain, expensive, second opinion, cost, all these different things, needles, all those things are in his mindset or her mindset. How can we reposition that?